The people making Monaco take the mic. I'm Nancy Heslin, and welcome to Monaco Info, the podcast. Our guest today is an Ivy League golf champion who built $2 billion companies and designed acclaimed hotels in Uruguay and Italy. His vineyard in Chile that he created from scratch was ranked number 2 by the world's best vineyards last year. On top of that, the Monaco resident speaks 5 languages, loves to dance the night away, and was once buried in an avalanche while heli-skiing in Canada. It's no wonder Forbes magazine called him the most interesting man in the world. Meet Alexander Vik. Hello, Alex.
Hi, Nancy. How are you?
Good. Thank you for pulling yourself away from the Monte Carlo Rolex tennis to join us. I think you came just to warm up, maybe.
Exactly. It was chilly today.
Do you go every year to the tennis?
Yes, definitely.
Because you love to play or because you love to watch the sport?
Both.
Okay.
And this tournament in particular is probably one of the nicest tournaments in the world to watch. The best players, the best setting, you know, it's in the small and intimate. So it's like amazing.
Yeah, I did an interview with Rafael Nadal, and he talked about how that is really specific to Monte Carlo, that real terrace restaurant noise. But he loves it. He says it's just that's the real vibe of an authentic tennis club. And I think that's what people come here to do.
I agree with him.
I was trying to think when we first met, and it was 2018, the top of the Hotel de Paris. It wasn't the grill, but there's this small private room on the top floor, which has got also fantastic views of Monaco. And I think there was like a dozen of us, and we were doing this like rare whiskey tasting. And I think you were the only one there that knew anything about whiskey.
It wasn't whiskey. It was LVMH who was doing, and I remember it well. I remember meeting you.
Yeah, of course you would.
And they were serving their champagnes, and I think what you said, whiskey was really incredible.
Maybe I'm remembering that. Wasn't it like 150 years old or something?
Incredible cognac they were offering. Yeah, I think it's Louis the 13th or something like that. They aged for 100 years, but it was a particular cognac.
But what was the purpose of that night? I can't remember.
To promote LVMH products.
I have noticed that every time I try to read about you and I research you, it's always, your name is always associated with, one of a kind or the best or the most in terms of quality, luxury. Has that been your whole life story?
Well, thank you. First of all, I don't know if it's true, but if you say so.
It's true. I say so, yeah.
I'm always trying to do my very best at everything I do, and sometimes I fail. I think often I fail, but I am always trying and, keep trying.
But you must have a taste, let's say, for quality. And I was wondering, did you grow up that way? What was your upbringing like?
I grew up in Sweden, outside of Stockholm, Sweden, until I was almost 15, and then lived in Las Palmas in the Canary Islands.
But wait a second, you have quite an interesting family story. Your grandparents, how did your grandparents meet?
My parents.
Your parents, sorry,
parents,
right, yeah.
Yeah, so my father's Norwegian, he grew up in Norway, and my grandfather was ambassador to Norway from Uruguay. And my mother was like 17 or 18 when she got to Norway, and they met my father, and so in Oslo, and got married at 21, and then they moved to Sweden when she was 22, and my grandfather had a business all over Scandinavia, and they went to work in the business in Sweden.
What was their business?
They were fur auctions.
What does that mean, fur auction?
Fur auctions are basically all of the furs that are grown in Scandinavia, whether it's mink or fox or others, then by the ranchers, the farmers, then they get sold to the worldwide clientele in auctions. And in this case, my grandfather had a company that ran those auctions. So
that must have been quite 2 different types of backgrounds. If you have Norwegian and your mother was from Uruguay, they're quite different types of cultures. Yeah, no, definitely. Especially in 1954 when they got married, it was, she was, in those days, Scandinavia was very, particularly Norway, quite provincial, very small, and there were very few foreigners. And so, she was definitely, and my mother was very lively. So she was this lively young woman from Uruguay, very exciting. My grandfather from the Uruguayan side was he was a general in the Uruguayan military. So you grew up then up until 15 just in Stockholm.
Yes.
And I remember we've talked before, and I think you told me that your first commission, like when you got kind of interested in real estate, you were just a young teenager, like 13 years old when you got your first commission?
Yes.
How does that happen?
Well, yeah, I was very interested in working early on. So, I picked up the golf balls at the range. I worked, in the supermarkets. And then in Sweden in 7th grade, everybody gets a practical internship.
Really, that young?
Yeah, 7th grade, everybody. So you sort of put a list of 3 things that you might be interested in your local town. And my third one was a real estate brokerage house.
What were the other ones? Do you remember?
I don't.
If real estate was like down the list?
I don't remember
Golf?
what they were. Probably.
Yeah.
But I don't remember. But I ended up in this real estate brokerage office. And of course, it's little for a 13-year-old to do.
There wasn't really computers and things like now,
no,
right?
So I was answering the phones, doing errands, and I had ended up having a lot of free time. So I'd go to see properties with other brokers, or read the files, and I became like an encyclopedia of all of the real estate transactions in the towns that I lived in, and so I became very knowledgeable about real estate in the 2 or 3 weeks that I was there. And my father was very interested in real estate. So that him and some of his friends, like Erling Persson, who was the founder of H&M, they would buy properties and sell them. And at one point, we were out cross-country skiing on the golf course where we played golf, and there was a house for sale across the railroad track that went by the 13th green. And we went, let's go in and take a look at it. So we went in there, and I knew a lot about the neighborhoods.
That's hilarious.
So
At 13?
Yes, because I'd read all these files. I'd been in this real estate brokerage firm for 3 weeks. So I said, hey, this is a really great buy. The other houses down the street, they're more expensive. You should buy this. And they did. And they resold it.
Based on what you said,
well,
pretty much.
Obviously on their own opinions, but, that was my input.
Right.
And it went very well, and they sold it for a very good profit. So they gave me a part of the profit as a commission or a thank you for assisting.
But does that, at that age of 13, does something like that make a lasting impact on you? Does it motivate you? Do you think, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to get into real estate when I get older? Or was it just kind of like, that's cool, I've got some pocket money?
I think the former. I mean, because obviously I was interested in working anyhow, but the fact that my father and his friend actually listened to me and were interested in my professional opinion, it was very motivating, and my father was very good at that. He took me very seriously from a very young age, and so I was like his secretary at home. Whenever he he got his correspondence at home, I would file it and organize it for him, and so that was very motivating. I didn't really know it, but reflecting back, I would say it was very motivating.
Your brother didn't share that kind of interest?
Less so.
Because he's young. Your brother's younger?
2 brothers.
Okay.
I had 2 brothers. And they're both younger. So I was the older, and and then once we moved to the Canary Islands, it's a very different culture in Canary Islands, so that didn't really sort of working as a 12-year-old in a shop. They just don't let you do that.
Why did your family end up moving there to Canary Islands?
Because my father got more and more interested in the real estate business, and then eventually he moved to the Canary Islands to do real estate. Again,
those are quite different landscapes, right? Sweden to go to the warmth of the Canary Islands?
Yes.
For you? Was it do you remember, like, it was easy for you to kind of, like, this was a dream because you could do sports and... I was very opposed to it. I absolutely wanted to stay in Sweden no matter what, but my family was moving there, so I had no choice, so I went. And what's it like living there?
We lived in the countryside, in a sort of far from town. It was maybe even an hour to go to the city of Las Palmas, because they're very windy roads. But so it was completely different from Sweden. There was no neighborhood, no neighborhood school to go to, so it was very different. And it was an international school that you went to? Do they even have that? Well, in Sweden, no parents think about their kids' education. You just go to the local school, and that's what you do. So there's no choices. So people don't think about that. So when we went to the Canary Islands, they weren't prepared to think about it, but they heard that there was an American school that sounds good. He doesn't speak any Spanish. It's difficult to go to Spanish school, so he spoke some English. So let's put him in American school. That's probably good. but the American school was very primitive. It was basically great environment, but they rented a different house every year.
Oh.
So the bedrooms were the classrooms. They put up some, blackboard and put in some chairs in. That was a classroom, and then the living room was like the assembly room. And there were no extracurriculars, no sports. You went out in the garden, played table tennis, and maybe there was a volleyball net. That was pretty much it.
But how many students were there?
There would be maybe 15 a class. So
wow.
So small and very, very different from Sweden.
Wow. And is that where you really discovered golf, like because of the weather, and you started playing golf? Because you played a lot of sports growing up.
Yeah, in Sweden I competitively played ice hockey, football, table tennis, track and field, golf, many different sports.
You've always been a competitive guy?
Yes.
Okay.
And then when the night that I was moving to the Canary Islands, and I was a really good hockey player, the coach says to me, "This is my last game." It's like 7 o'clock in the evening, and then we're having like a 11 o'clock flight. Okay.
Oh, jeez.
Because my last game, go out there and try to score it. It's a 1-1 game. I go out there and I chase some guy in the corner, and he hooks my eye, and he cuts open the eye.
No.
So my eye sort of half falls out, my eyeball. And so I didn't go to the Canary Islands. Instead, I ended up in bed for a month, lying pretty still. And then when it was healed, then we moved down but I couldn't do active sports. And there was a golf course. The only golf course in Gran Canaria was, or actually there were two, but the only 18-hole golf course which people played was about 2 or 3 miles from our house. So I went over there. I couldn't even play. I could just chip and putt.
Oh, wow.
And I chipped and putt for a while. Then I met the local people at the golf club. And then I started playing golf. And that's really how I started playing a lot more golf.
But when you had the accident, did you almost lose your eye? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, it had been, fraction of an inch to the side, I would have lost my eye. But it would just cut open the side of my eye.
Were you a young person that was often like getting injured and things because you played so much sports? Like when that happened, did your mom freak out? Did your father freak out? Or is your family quite level-headed? Because that's a big one.
I don't remember that except, having to stay in bed for a month. But no, I mean, I played a lot of sports, but I didn't get injured very much. It was just a strange thing. Like literally my last day in Sweden, this happens.
And what was it about golf for you, other than you didn't have to move your head too much at the beginning? What was it that you loved about golf?
I already played in Sweden, so, and I was pretty good at it, and I liked it, and it was fun. And then there, I just became my social environment as well. So I started playing, and I was playing a lot, and it was not that far from where I lived. So I went, and then I got, I progressed very fast. And I don't know if you play golf, but when you...
I don't know that you call it play golf, but I've hit a golf ball.
You get that bug, and then you get better and better and better and better. And so then I started playing tournament golf, and then it became a big part of my life.
And you thought, like, I could do this become pro?
No, and that was never a thought. It was just...
Really? It was just fun?
Yeah, just playing, playing well and excelling, and playing, I was playing first tournaments in the Canary Islands. That was doing really well. Then I went to the mainland of La Peninsula, as they call it, what they call the mainland of Spain. Played tournaments there. Then all over around Europe, and then
were you traveling by yourself?
Yes.
How old were you?
By myself from 16 on.
That would be quite something to be able to travel around Europe on your own, and especially in that capacity. It's not like you're backpacking or. It would have been a great way to visit.
I actually bought the Eurail card so I could ride the train around Europe for, it was like 100 francs or something. I forget what the currency was, but very cheap. And you just could go anywhere on the train, and you just go over to Switzerland or France or Spain and go on the train, go find a hotel, and go play the tournament.
I'm always curious to know if people still have, or like if the Eurail pass, for example, still gives that excitement to people. Because there's so many other ways you can travel. And then it was really the affordable way to do it, right? Now there's low-cost flights and things like that. So it's changed the way we were as a young person.
I think it was the only way to travel inexpensively, on your own, yeah.
And so how did you end up at Harvard? And why? Why Harvard?
when I went to this American school of Las Palmas, and I mean, so obviously I had a lot of input from American, and the teachers were mostly American, mostly Americans, or there were some like New Zealanders, Australians, but English speaking. And at one point I saw the movie Love Story, and that was
with Ali McGraw
and Ryan O'Neal. I said, wow, that is so good. It's all about Harvard, and it's a sad movie, but a beautiful movie. And I said, my God, looks like a great place.
What is the story?
Their boyfriend, girlfriend, and she ends up dying.
Right.
But he was
spoiler alert. Sorry, people. But yeah,
he was a Harvard, multi-generational family, and it's it's all about. And she was this pretty young girl who he met, and so at some point I decided, okay, I'm going to apply it. I didn't really know this whole business of the SATs and you had to put applications and all that sort of stuff, but I sort of went through what I thought was like pro forma, not understanding the process. But in the end, they admitted me, so I went.
So again, it's like quite a contrast from the life you had been living, right? Arriving in the States, and it's not exactly nature-based as much as probably where you were spending time at home.
Yeah, but by this time I was, very independent. I've been traveling around Europe by myself for several years, and played, a lot of very high level tournaments. I was, Norwegian champion multiple times and European champion, and I had played, a lot. So, it was just going to the U.S. Just another trip. I mean, it didn't worry me in the slightest. It was okay. I'll just take same thing, golf club, suitcase, and off I go.
When you're a champion like that at a young age, do you take losing well, and also do you get really even more competitive? Do you enter become more focused on the title and you just want to win, or were you just naturally gifted and just kept winning? Because to me, there's kind of a different thing that you can be over focused on winning.
I mean, if you're an athlete, you're going to lose a lot. So it's just part of it. You're going to lose, and and you want to train and work hard to win more. But you can't. You just this is part of the sport is to lose.
Do you think because you played so long and so competitively, like that helped your business sense and the way just sort of just endurance, and also the winning and the losing, and some things work, some things don't?
Yes, I think so. And in the independence that it creates, you have to rely on yourself. And in golf in particular as a sport, I think that's really good for that, because it's really, you're really on your own, and it's not like, the tennis we were just at today where, the guy hits a great shot and you can't get it. Okay. But here it's just you. And, you're traveling around at a young age all over Europe to making your arrangements, finding a hotel, so forth. And then having to perform, and pretty much every week there would be another tournament. So I think that's and the whole process of becoming very good at something, excelling, it's I think very instructive for life. And that if you're able to do that, you can apply the concept, those processes, those efforts, that determination to anything.
Well, that's why I think it's really interesting, because it seems to me that you do that a lot, that you can apply yourself and go, okay, well, now I'm going to do this. You built a vineyard from scratch. How does somebody do that? Why did you decide to create Vineyards Vik? The same thing to me. Like, it's like you have that idea and you're like, I'm going to make it and I'm going to follow the process and I can focus.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that first of all, it was a folly to do it.
Really?
Yes, because it's really ridiculously hard in a short time frame. Most of the famous vineyards you've heard of, they've been around for 50, 100, 200, for a very, very long time. So it takes a very long time. It's agriculture. When I was doing due diligence on the project, the sort of owners of the most famous chateaus in the world say, Alex, until the vines themselves are 40 to 50 years old, you're not going to get the best quality. I said, I don't have another 50 years. This got to go faster. So I tried to apply, all of the disciplines and the science and the knowledge to try to do, sort of study everything before starting. So we spent, in this particular case, we put together a scientific team that spent 2 years analyzing the whole world.
This was about 2012?
No. So we started in 2004.
Oh, wow.
Put together this scientific team to find the best terroir in the world to make the best Bordeaux-style wine in the world. And ended up in the end focusing on South America. So Argentina, southern Brazil, Uruguay, and Chile. And they went around and eventually found this finalist property with this property in Miyahui, 2 hours south of Santiago, the capital of Chile. And it was wilderness. It was abandoned property. So then they said, here the conditions are exceptional, and in particular because it's in a wind tunnel from the Pacific Ocean to the Andes Mountain. So the thermal amplitude is very high, and it is cooler temperature here than it typically is in the main wine-growing regions of Chile. And some of the vineyards over the mountains were some of the better ones already in Chile. But this was a new valley, no vineyards in it. Then we spent another year analyzing these very large properties, 11,000 acres.
Wow.
So we've done 4,000 soil pits, studied the soil structure, horizontal water flows, thermal amplitude, everything that you can think of to determine, okay, this place really have everything it takes to create one of the great wines of the world.
And that was your goal. You wanted to create one of the great wines of the world.
Yes.
Okay. And can I ask why? Where did that even come from in your life?
Well, excelling to create something exceptionally good, so we just wanted to, if we're going to do this, do it at what they say in the technology world, at scale, in size, and also at exceptional quality. So that was the goal from the beginning, to create 100-point wines at scale.
Because when I was walking to the studio today, I was thinking, how many people in this world have done that, have started from nothing and created their own vineyard?
I mean, I'm sure there are many, and Napa Valley is a good example. There are, it's an old region, but also a lot of newcomers over the last, let's say, 50 years. And many have created amazing vineyards, and there are. But then on the other hand, there's like the Antinori family in Italy, where they've been doing it, for 800 years. So it depends.
And so you found the territory that was going to be able to provide what you wanted.
Yeah, what we call the terroir, it's in the French term, which is basically what does this particular land, for all the various components of it, why can it grow amazing vines that produce the perfect grapes? Yeah. And
what happened? How long did it take to? Because I know that the wine is accelerating in terms of winning awards. And what's the last 10 years been?
No, so let's say, then when we purchased the property in 2006, we started clearing the land and planting. We planted from 2006 to 2014, something like that. And then we built a winery, and we built a hotel and restaurants, and so the whole construction of it, took 8 years. Then is another, let's say, 10 years really to refine everything, develop everything, and we planted 400 different parcels. So, and we tend to each one differently, like an individual person. And each year we try to help the vines produce the perfect grape in each location, and for each parcel it might be slightly different. So we're always adapting every year. It gives us feedback what we can do better, and now it's like the 2021 vintage. We got 100 points.
So what does that mean? 100 points for people that
in the wine world
know,
is perfection. So this is from James Suckling, who was the first one to give us 100 points, and he also rated it the 6th best individual wine in the world for last year for the 2021 vintage. So that's our main wine, and like 2022 I think is better than the 2021. So we are in this improving trend. One reason is we learn more every single year, and also as the vines get older, as they told me that the vines get older, and so they are on an improving trend. The vines themselves become more capable. They develop the root structure, equilibrium. So it's super exciting. It's like getting hooked on golf. That you're just improving. So I'm super excited about the things that we have done and especially what we can do. So I think I see another decade of keeping improving, and then letting the world know about what we do.
Well, that's the other side of it. I mean, you have to then promote your wine. How do you successfully, I mean, there's quite a bit of competition out there. How do you get your wine out there?
There's infinite competitions. There's probably, I don't know, a million vineyards in the world, an enormous amount of competitions. It's very difficult. You know, we try to build an exceptional vineyard and just with the winery was made, the architect is Smiljan Radic. We worked with him for 3 years and created something that I think is exceptional. He was a candidate for the Pritzker Prize of Architecture as a result of the winery. The whole jury came to visit the property. And then I like to design things. So with my wife Carrie, we designed the hotels, the architecture of the hotel, the art inside of it, the themes inside, the design, the furniture, everything. And now that the vineyard itself, the totality was voted second best vineyard in the world because of all of that. So that definitely attracts attention. So when you have an amazing experience to go visit, stay there, and then drink incredible wines, that's very unique in the world. I don't think there are many places like that.
You design the furniture?
No, we designed the architecture, the rooms, and the spaces, and then select. Sometimes I design furniture, but most of the time we're selecting pieces and working with artists to collaborate, create unique spaces.
But art is such a big part of your life and your wife's life.
Yes. Has
it always been? Is that again something like that has just sort of developed as you've grown over the years, that you're acquiring pieces, or has it always just sort of been associated with some of the projects that you work on?
I mean, it really started with our own personal life. When we graduated from college, we moved to New York and we needed to furnish our apartment, and we kind of went to the local downtown dusty auction houses or the local stores to buy furniture, and we would walk down West Broadway in the 1980 on, with the art scene was just starting in New York, and it just getting involved with it. I mean, I like design, aesthetics, and so it's just something that appeals to me. And
Carrie, also your wife?
Yes.
Before you opened and started the vineyard, you already had designed the hotels in Uruguay, is that right? Or did that come after?
At a similar time. So basically, in Uruguay, we started. It was originally supposed to be our private properties, homes, but since we were never there, we decided to share them, build something that's bigger, and then share it with the rest of the world as a hotel. And then we would just be another hotel guest when we came. And that's how we started with Estancia Vik and Playa Vik. Those two properties were supposed to be the ranch and the beach house, and they're only 10 minutes from each other. So, you create a unique experience which is only available in Uruguay.
And are you someone that has to oversee all this, or like there are projects that someone else deals with and that's fine by you?
We do. I mean, the reason we do them because we like to do everything in them. But once they are operational, then we're not running the properties. For that there's professional management.
But how often do you get to Chile to see?
I'm there, let's say 4 times a year.
Okay.
But I'm in frequent contact with the management team.
And when you started out on that adventure, there had to have been a couple of hiccups along the way that were just completely unexpected, or had you really planned it and the research had been done so thoroughly that you didn't have too many hiccups?
No, I mean, there are always hiccups. That's sort of, it goes without saying. But I think in general it was a good trend. I think it took us time to learn how to really to really show off the amazing grapes that we were producing, and so that probably it was a sort of trial and error. It took us, let's say, 5 commercial vintages to really get the first wine really, really good, and then another 5 vintages to perfect it. And it's a trial and error process. And I'm not doing it. It's really our winemaker, Cristian Vallejo, is an amazing guy. And he was the assistant winemaker before, and it's really when he became the head winemaker, he sort of took him a couple of years to free up and do what he really wanted to do and innovate. And we've been innovating a lot, and that is really what's sort of taking it to an exceptional level.
But do you get nervous when you're about to taste the wine and think, is this, you know, especially at the beginning, was it like, is this going to be good? Is this, like, I've invested my whole life in this. Is this going to work?
You know, this is like, you know, the reason young people start businesses is because they don't know, they're not aware of all the risks. If you're always thinking about all the risks, then you would never do anything. So, and it was a little bit like that in that I didn't know enough about the wine world. And so the first time I tasted our first wine, I said, oh, that's pretty good. And not, you know, but there's from pretty good to one of the best in the world, it's a very big distance.
Yeah.
So it's and you know, like everything in life is, if they say to go from number 1 million to go to number 10 is incredibly difficult, as it is in the wine world.
How do you price wine?
I mean, it's a demand, you know, supply and demand question, and we are trying to offer the world the best value for money, so that incredible quality at a relatively affordable price.
And what does this mean? Because you said the perfect grape. This is my last question about wine, but I often you hear that people talk about that. What is the perfect grape?
Well, the perfect grape is something that's incredibly pure and natural, and then when you in the wine world, when you crush it to start the fermentation, that you don't do anything to it. All you're doing is just trying to tend it to it in the vineyard, help it to be really, really incredibly great. Pick it on the right day when it's the perfect position in the maturation process, fully ripe but not overripe. Just the very perfect day. We harvest at night to maintain the structure, because it's cool at night. So the structure of the grape itself, crush it, and then just put it into the fermentation tank and not do anything. When you don't make all those efforts, then what they say in the wine world, you have to put additives and things to it, like putting makeup on it, to cover up its faults. But if you have the perfect grape, then it's just perfect. There's no fault, so you just let it express itself in the wine.
I mean, you've won so many accolades. Is there anyone in the wine world that if they said this is a great wine, you would just be like, okay, I've done it? Does that matter to you?
No, but I would say what matters a lot are the critics, the people who do ratings on your wine. So it's, you know, you have James Huckling and Robert Parker. I mean, he's retired, but the Wine Advocate and the Wine Spectator, Vineyards, and.
But for you personally, there's not someone out there that you're like, that would mean that I've really done something.
No, I mean, I would just like all of them to really appreciate what we have done and are doing and will do. So because I feel a little bit like it's almost like, you know, the figure skating competition in the Olympics, you know, where the judges have already seen all the skaters before, right? So before the skaters are skating, they have a whole idea of what that skater is all about, and then they perform and then rate that performance, and it's somewhat relative to who that person is and what they usually do. And I think a little bit in the wine world is the same, that the reputational aspects of vineyards and wines is very important, and the ultimate progression of critics' comments.
But I mean, this is quite something, because you don't have a background in viticulture, and you're a businessman.
Yes.
You studied economics at Harvard, right?
Yes.
And you worked for Lehman Brothers when you first graduated, or you had an internship at Lehman Brothers?
I worked for Lehman Brothers, yes, in the investment banking, mergers and acquisitions.
And that was like your excitement when you were young? Like that's really what you wanted to do?
Yes.
What is it about that world that's riveting? Like for someone like myself that's so far away from financial world, what is it about it? Is it the possibility of trade, of the potential of earning? What is it?
You know, at that time I was, you know, I did business, like to work, and I got really interested in investments, you know, in college, and then, you know, with those interests, getting a job at Lehman Brothers was, really great, and it's what I really want to do, and how to, in this case, was valuing companies, buying and selling, advising companies they were doing transactions and learning about business, and because I really wanted to build businesses and wanted to be an entrepreneur. So this was like incredible learning for me.
But you were playing golf at Harvard at the same time?
Yes.
You were the captain of the golf team?
Yes, my junior and senior year.
And again, that was something that you didn't think I could take that professionally. You never had to make a choice between those two things?
It's a little bit the culture that I came from. So in Scandinavia and in Spain in particular, but in Europe in general, very few amateurs turn pro. It was a very rare thing to do. So if you had like all kinds of other ambitions in life, that was not really something, you weren't driving to that at this time. This is like, mid-70s, right? So that was not part of my thing. I was just playing and having fun and trying to do the best I could. Then let's say every year I went to the NCAA finals and played the East-West All-Star matches, and all the other guys were turning pro. And they're like, "Hey, Alex, when are you turning pro?" I said, "I'm not turning pro." "Well, why not?"
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm gonna go work on Wall Street. What? So it was just a different culture, different thinking. Yeah.
And what happened when you went to work on Wall Street? Like, you wanted to create businesses, and what did you create? You worked with your brother.
Yeah. Well, in those days, I started. I was obviously then I left after 2 years, and I started investing in the markets, like public markets. Then I started buying real estate at night in New York City. And then, like in the mid-'80s, I started insurance companies. And then, and the whole time I was investing a lot in earlier days of software and technology.
But if I remember, the company that you created with your brother, the insurance company, you really saw a different way to sell insurance.
Well, we were, how it actually started was that, so I was doing real estate. And this is the beginning of asbestos removal. So whenever you renovated buildings in New York City, you had to remove the asbestos, and everybody considered it to be so dangerous that, oh my God! And then you were required to have insurance, and the insurance was almost unavailable.
Oh,
and the process of removing the asbestos was very regulated. So we said, hey, we should offer asbestos insurance on what's called a claims-made basis. And because the chance of getting a loss from that was low. So we started doing that. And so that was the beginning of it. We didn't know enough how to really distribute and sell it to make it grow it, big enough. So we started buying other insurance companies to add to that. It was basically, I think we bought 4 or 5 different ones, and they were all bad companies. And then we all had to try to improve them. It was very difficult. All those companies were what's called independent agency companies. So it was also, you paid high commissions to the brokers, the agents. So it was an expensive process. So we were working hard on trying to streamline the whole workflow. So when the internet came along, we said, oh my God, this is an amazing platform that everybody can work on together. It's like in 1995, 96, something like that. And, because we have been super active in real estate, super active in investing in markets and buying other companies, and, was very invested a lot in what's called the closed-end country funds, and that were traded publicly in New York. And so the internet became very exciting. So I ended up selling the insurance companies to focus on starting a virtual internet-based insurance platform. It was way too early. And the technology wasn't ripe enough, and the companies wouldn't participate in the established insurance companies.
But you've always been interested in data. Like, as soon as that world opened up, did you invest in data companies and saw the potential of the value of that?
I mean, we got involved in many different internet businesses early on. Many of them failed, and some did super well. And then we started software companies, and to this day we're doing that.
But I don't know if you can answer this, because I mean, that was quite a special time, you know, when the internet came along before the dot-com burst, but being at Wall Street and being in that world at that time with this new technology, what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, you know, the internet was obviously an incredibly big thing. And I like to say that the West had essentially almost monopoly on knowledge for 500 years, they say, from the Renaissance till the year 2000. But the internet's basically made now all information available to anybody in the world who has access to it. So it's really transformational. And, you know, now, sitting here today, you know, with the whole Gen AI world, it's, you know, I think it's another internet, probably even bigger in terms of transformation of for mankind.
What do you think about artificial intelligence?
I see the positive. I mean, some people worry that it'll be so good it'll take us over.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I understand, you know, exactly how that's going to work, and I'm not knowledgeable enough. But I would say that, let's say, if you think of it, you know, 150 years ago, 90% of the world population worked in farming to feed the world. Now there's like 2% in the West, and then everybody moved to the cities and manufacturing, and now I don't know what the number, but the people working manufacturing has fallen dramatically. So it's a low number, even though Donald Trump.
I was just going to say he's going to change it, revive.
It was, you know, whether that's wise or not, I don't know, but. And all of the smartest, hardest working people have really gone into knowledge business industries, whether it's medicine or law or software or banking or finance or all these types of things, which is all about knowledge. And now all of those people will, over time, be freed up, because all of those things that we now do probably can, instead of having that many smart people, will have, again, like farming, will be 2% or 5% of the population. So we'll free up all of these people to do incredible things for mankind. And so it's an enormous, capable tool that is quite amazing, as long as it doesn't overtake the human race.
Yeah, well, we'll see. One of the companies that, when I was talking earlier about how you always seem to be associated with the best, the biggest, one of your companies was valued, and let me find the quote here. You had your company, a software business called Accelera, and it was referred to as the biggest .com bubble stock of the era. Within 1 year, it had a 54,000% rise, trading at 21 cents a share in April 1999 to $112.50 in March 2000, leading to a valuation of $11.7 billion. What was that like to be part of that sort of growth?
Very exciting, absolutely. And it's sort of illustrate during these boom periods when amazing new things come out, you know, society overinvests in them because they don't know which one is. They know it's really important, it's really big, and there's a whole the speculative element of it. But so they invest in everything, and then some succeed, some fail, and I mean, out of the internet came all the world's biggest companies today. I mean, they were born in the internet area. And I feel a little bit we were a little bit in the same process in the crypto world a few years ago.
Yeah.
And now I think we're in a similar process in the Gen AI world, where people are investing in everything at very high valuation, sort of bubble-like pricing, because it's such an important thing that everybody should be participating.
When I interviewed you in 2020 for Forbes Monaco, you said that capitalism and opportunity is alive and well in the U.S., and the American business culture and entrepreneurship is well organized with an ecosystem of financing, funding, going to market, many of the things you need to succeed. Is this still the case of the United States?
Yes, it's the secret. I mean, to me, it's one of the essential secrets or ingredients to the American success is that it sometimes overinvests, but it generates incredible businesses that in a way better than, to me, any other country in the world, any other system in the world can.
Has the EU picked up any of that, or is it still a complicated territory to be doing business and accelerating, especially when you have a startup?
I mean, the EU aspires to it; they want to, but I think the whole cultural structure is not as supportive as the American one is.
And what do you see happening now with the way the tariffs are coming on, with the trade tariffs? Do you think that will impact people wanting to invest or create businesses in America?
It's a very big question. I mean, it's very difficult to say, but free trade has been good for the entire world, and we have been on a ever increasing free trade trend for, I don't know, 100 years. This is a reversal of that. If that's good, that's time. We don't know. I personally tend to doubt it. I think overall for mankind it will be less good. Whether it persists, I mean, I don't know what the change. Who knows? It's really, really too early to tell what the actual impacts are, and what will they be. Nobody knows. But to me it's risky. It's a risky proposition for the world and for the U.S. too.
But do you get stressed out by that? Like the last couple of days, let's say, like the markets have been, dumping. Are you somebody that just goes with the flow, or do you have a negative side, or are you always quite optimistic?
I try to be optimistic. Obviously, it is worrisome, but the market's telling Donald Trump this is a mistake.
He doesn't care.
No, he should care. I mean, every person in the world doesn't know everything, and so they should listen to everybody else. And the market says everybody else is like that's the voice of the world. So that's an important one to listen to, no matter what you think or no matter what you know. But
because you worked in that world for years, can you, like, for people that don't understand Wall Street and the way that markets work, is this just sort of something that's happening and we know we're going to get past, or should people be more worried, do you think?
No, I don't think they should be more worried. But if I was a policymaker, I would definitely listen to the market. You don't listen to small changes, but this one seems to be a big one.
Yeah.
So it's telling you that, whoa, hold on a minute, is this the right thing for America? Forget everybody else, just for America. Is this in America's interest? Unclear.
One of the things that I've always thought about over the time that I've met you is that you are somebody that for a certain period of time, your heart stopped beating.
Yes.
And not because of the markets, but you had an accident in 1997, and you love to play and to work. I think that's fair to say, right? You enjoy the taking advantage of life as much as possible. And in 1997, you were heli-skiing in Canada?
Yes.
Whereabouts were you?
In the Monaco.
And you were with somebody that I remember you telling me he had some kind of like what do you call it, mohawk, or you were some famous skier?
That's right.
What happened that day?
His name is Glenn Blake. He's a very famous stunt skier with a multicolored mohawk that when he's in the films. So we were skiing with him, and he was doing these mega jumps off mountains and things like that. And it was the last run of the day, and the pilot of the helicopter says, Alex, you have a super important call from the office. Can you get in the front seat here? I can patch
in the helicopter.
In the helicopter. Can you get in the front seat? I'll patch you in. And okay. So I'll be going to sit here for a few minutes. Okay, so I will go in the front seat. I put on the headphones. Crackle.
And how many of you are in this helicopter?
So everybody else went out. I was the only one then in the helicopter.
And you were just a small group?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then crackle. I can't hear anything. Oh, finally, I said, oh, forget it. I'll deal with it later. So I get out on blast, and they were skiing down one by one. And it was like, I don't know, 600, 700, 800 meters, very, very steep, south-facing. And it's the last run of the day. And
sorry, just to say, heli-skiing is you just jump out of a helicopter?
No, it lands, in this case, on the top of the mountain.
Oh, okay.
And you
it does land.
Yes,
okay.
it does land. You get out, and there's a basket that you take your skis out, you put your skis
okay.
on. And they were skiing down one by one because there was high avalanche danger and so forth. So they were going, and then 800 yards down, there were cliffs. So they were skied to the left, and Glenn went first, and I'm last. And then while I'm standing there, all of a sudden, boom! The whole mountain fractured, and a very big avalanche, and you're flying down the mountain. It's very, very steep, going 100 miles an hour, eventually over these cliffs, and which were like 100-foot cliffs. And then there was a little flatter, so we landed. The three of us who were caught were landed there, and then the avalanche partially kept going, and we were buried 5 to 10 feet under. And fortunately, Glenn had stopped so that he could ski down to us. And in those days, you had beepers on, so you can turn to. They were emitting normally, but you could turn to receive to find people. And he was calm, cool, looking for our signals. And the first one he found was me. But all three of us were buried, had the emergency backpacks on, so they were digging with their skis and poles, and the avalanche snow gets very hard. Mm-hmm. It's like almost like icy. Mm-hmm. So you had hard to crack through it. But eventually they got the first one up, which was me, but I was dead. And then I was so lucky because that week they had 30 trauma doctors skiing. This was Mike Wheatley in Blue River, British Columbia. And they had flown up 30 trauma doctors from big city hospitals, and they started working on me and were able to revive me.
Do they know how long how much time you were buried?
It's unclear, 10 to 20 minutes. It's unclear. But
you don't have any recollection of anything other than the sound of the avalanche?
Yeah. I mean, once I've been told that I was like on a log roll, I was trying to stay upright, but then that was a big one. You could just disappear in this giant cloud of snow.
And the other two skiers you were with?
They died.
They died. So obviously you're taken by helicopter to hospital and you recover and there's no damage?
First I was flown to the road because this was the last run of the day because then it was getting dark. And then there was a 5-hour ambulance ride to Kamloops, British Columbia, to the English
Kamloops.
hospital.
All right.
To the English hospital in the Kamloops. But I don't remember anything,
Obviously.
So then I was there, and I had the only thing I had was memory loss and pneumonia. I had nothing else hurt.
How long did the memory loss last?
It was maybe a week, something like that.
Really?
Yeah. It was getting better progressively, but yeah, something like that. They would say you had to take it easy for a month. Of course, I didn't, but yes.
How do you? I don't think the words recover, but obviously, you don't remember other than the sound and the that fastness of being taken by the avalanche, and you're okay. And I always find the word okay this very strange way people deal with things that are uncomfortable. Like, you're okay. They can see you. You had a little memory loss, but you're still you. But, there is an impact from those types of events in life, even if you come back out of it fine and you're okay. Did you have any issues after that? Did you go skiing? Did you ever wake up sweating in a panic, remembering anything at any time?
I think the body does a very good job of protecting. It doesn't remember anything.
Wow.
So I never ever have any repercussions like that. None.
And you went heli-skiing again?
No.
No.
Only because my wife won't let me, but otherwise I would. And I go climbing in the mountains. I go everything, but not heli-skiing per se. But I love it. It's and heli-skiing is an amazing thing to do. It's in Canada. It's like unbelievably good.
I don't ski, so I don't really understand heli-skiing or skiing, but I'll take your word for it, and I don't want to go near an avalanche. So what do you do for fun? I know you love music, and you've tried to integrate music into your vineyard as well, have you not?
I'm actually trying to write songs now.
What? See, there's always something when I haven't seen you. What are you doing?
Well, I mean, I like dancing and music, and so I'm actually trying to write some hit dance songs.
Stop.
Yes.
How do you do that? What's the process of that? You just sit down and write and then collaborate with someone for music?
I'm very commercial. So if I hear the song and I like it, it's going to be a hit.
Okay.
My eye is very commercial. So I'm only interested in very, very commercial pop, dance pop.
Okay.
And so just from listening to so many songs over the years and really now studying the songs to try to figure out what really drives them, what's the I've been doing that and I'm sort of putting together. I have sort of the soundtrack. Now I'm working on the lyrics. And most people I think do the other way around. They write the lyrics first and then they put this. I'm doing the other way around.
So you want to create a pop song, a hit pop song.
Yes.
And you also do art. You paint?
Yes.
When did you move to Monaco?
2001.
I know one of the things you do here is you're captain of the Monaco USA celebrity golf. They had a St. Moritz version. You were the team captain for Europe?
Yeah, it's a Ryder Cup celebrity tournament, yes.
And I think there was quite a party in St. Moritz with some Scottish kilt brothers and I heard
the Evans brothers.
The Evans brothers.
Yes.
What's fun about that tournament? Like that tournament really brings in some unique people here.
Yes, nice. You know, the American side is athletes, you know, professional athletes at the end of their careers or recently retired. So it's really fun playing against all these young guys who, you know, are professional athletes in other sports, but really like golf and play a lot of golf and are good. So that is, you know, really a lot of fun.
What other things do you like to do in Monaco? Like, is there anything specific, or you just like to? It's a good place to call home.
Monaco is a great place. It's so many interesting people, so many fun things to do. You know, amazing location. I mean, I think it's, you know, it's like Manhattan, but it's a mini one, and everything is very easy. So it's super nice.
But do you socialize a lot here?
When I'm here, yeah. I mean, I like, you know, we go to concerts or sporting events, and there's so many of them. You know, football. You know, there's, you know, it's almost walking distance from my apartment. I can, you know, they have the, you know, the track and field champion. They bring all.
Do you go to all these things?
As many as I can. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's really. I mean, it's exceptional.
And where would you say is the best place to have wine here? Have a glass
Obviously
of wine.
at our house.
I heard that because you also have a house, and I heard that you have a golf range at your house.
No,
driving range.
We don't. We have golf green grass, but not a golf range. Right?
But you never
just
know.
During the tournament event for the Ryder Cup, they hit balls into like fish balls into the sea.
Oh yeah,
but no, not a driving range.
What do you think people are always surprised to learn about Monaco? Something that is, I mean, everyone has the same first reaction to why someone would move here, but there's so many other reasons. What do you think is something people are surprised to learn about this country?
Hard to tell. One of the things I think is very nice is that because there are many newcomers to Monaco, people who haven't lived that long, normally in their own home, in their own countries or their own cities, wouldn't be so open to new people and new friendships. Here, everybody, because of, are looking, they're all new, so everybody's looking for new friends and new things to do. So I find it to be super open, different from you know, most places, and both for residents and for visitors. Everybody's very open, very friendly. So I like that a lot about Monaco.
And do you find it easy to connect then, like for business, or if you want to create something here, because it's a little bit of a country club?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm in that country club per se, but yes, I mean, obviously there's a lot of very talented, very, very active people. So to the extent that you want to do things, that there's, you know, you can find the right people to do them with.
So what's the future for you then? You're going to have a new pop song coming out. Your wine continues to develop. I know that you had an app, a Fluid.
Yeah, that was a crypto application.
Yeah.
But now I'm mostly focused on growing our hotel and wine business, but most of all in the technology and software.
In what way?
So we have working on, you know, we're one of the leading companies in the world on fine-grained data security, and most security for software in general, for data in general, has been what we call network security. People creating walls, also sort of walls around getting access to the systems and to the actual data, which sort of the data being the gold. Our company protects the actual data itself. And in a world, but Gen AI world, in a world where data needs to flow freely, to be shared, the security of it is incredibly important. So, and our technology protects it at rest, in use, and in transit. So it's always protected, and it can be shared with anybody, anywhere in the world, in a completely safe way that even quantum computers cannot break the keys. So I see that as a very good fit for the world where the data in a Gen AI world is so important.
All right. Well, I know that you are waiting to get back to the tennis, so thank you for speaking to Monaco and for the podcast in English. Alex, and hopefully you'll come back and tell us, sing for us, obviously, with your new pop song.
I won't be singing. I'm just creating the song. Won't be singing. That is definitely not something I
don't know. I think
do.
that maybe that could be a first too. Have a bit of wine and then do a little bit of singing. We'll see what happens. But thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, Nancy. Appreciate it.